Hello, everyone, and welcome to what we can call back to school night for this year. I am Mr. Porter. I am one of many Algebra 1 math teachers at Amador Valley High School, and tonight we'll be talking about simply what is expected for your child, what the format is for this class, and how they can really succeed in this online teaching environment. It's very important that they do succeed because how they do in Algebra 1 is going to determine where they're going to go in future math classes. Either it's Math 2 if they need more support, or the standard path of going geometry and then Algebra 2 and then pre-calc, or maybe they are a stellar student and they can take the course classes, which will lead to calculus. So go ahead and let's get started with just going over the format of the class. All right, so my class actually begins outside of the classroom. For those of you who might have some children who are already in college, you might have heard of something called a flipped classroom. And that's how I'll be running my class for the majority of this year unless we get back in the classroom. So what I mean by that is that before class, students are going to get 1 to 2 videos, as is shown on their Google Classroom. They will get 1 to 2 videos created by me, a recording, a PowerPoint of that, where I go over the lesson. The reason for this is, I think, a big struggle that's going to happen in a lot of classes this year is student engagement. It's already difficult enough for students to stay focused in most classes, and now we're putting them in front of a laptop where there's so many ways to get distracted, and it's very easy to zone out when a teacher is just talking for 20 minutes on a lesson. So this actually starts the learning process outside the classroom. And if you actually want to see any of the examples of these kind of videos, this YouTube channel that you're seeing this video on is the same channel that I use to post the videos for your own child. So feel free to take a look. The videos are not organized by classes, so you might see some Math 4 and some Math 2 videos, but for the most part, it's a really good way for you to see how your child is being taught. And with all these videos, they'll also get an assignment based on the video, and that's going to be due 2 days before the next class. So typically they'll have like 2 days to do the video. And if you're probably wondering, this isn't enough support for my child, I'm just giving them a really quick 8-minute video and then they're expected to be able to do an assignment. Well, they're not graded on the assignments by accuracy. The purpose of the assignment is for me to see how well they understood the video. If they completely misunderstood everything and they're getting everything wrong, that's information for me. And let me show you how that actually builds into the actual Zoom class part. So when we're talking about class, when students come into class, they typically will have a warm-up as I let students in, and the warm-up is always related to the video beforehand. Just sometimes it's based on a mistake I saw, other times it's just a quick, easy assignment based on the same topic. But then the meat of the actual class is going to be partially from us discussing mistakes. And so a big part of learning math is repetition, repetition, repetition. And the repetition comes from the fact that, one, they start with the video, they do a few assignments, and then I discuss any mistakes that I saw from their own assignments. So if I see that a bunch of the class is having issue with exponents that have an exponent of 0 or negative exponents, I could spend and focus my class on talking just about that. It's efficient. It saves time for both me and the students because I can now focus only on what they need help with instead of teaching a whole lesson for 20 minutes. And so far, students have highly appreciated just me going over those assignments, and they get pretty quick feedback as a result. After that, they do have classwork. I usually like to break them out into breakout rooms, and they have group work. Now, I know a lot of people don't like group work because, well, if one student is doing all the work, how will the other students benefit? And my group work is typically they're doing the same assignment, and they can check their answers with each other and seeing if they have getting the same answer. But each student is typically responsible for their own work. So if for some reason your child for the day during the lesson gets put in a group with 3 other people who just don't do their work, they're not going to really suffer in that case because, one, those other students aren't going to just be able to lower their grade or lower their understanding. And I do go into the different groups and help you out your child. So that is typically what that's like. And at the very end, I usually give like a small little X ticket, just a problem or two based on how well the students understand the work, and it's a good way for me to take a look and quickly glance if there's any more work that needs to be done during the next lesson. So this is a flipped classroom where instruction happens outside the class. It does not mean I don't teach during the Zoom meeting. In fact, I actually do a bit more teaching, I think, than normal, and this is so far an effective structure for the class for an online class. So for class format, here's actually an example of what students might see when they when they sign in to Zoom. This is a typical warm-up they had very recently. In fact, this was based on a mistake I saw a lot of them do, because typically a lot of students will see this, they go, oh, I should solve the equation. But instead, the easiest way to deal with this to see if Holly is correct is to put the number 20 to substitute it into the equation and to see if the left side ends up equaling 72. And it's a good way to justify if Holly is correct or not. And students were not doing that, even though I've really been emphasizing, check your work, check your work, check your work. So we had a discussion afterwards saying how, wasn't it a bit easier to just substitute the number 20 in versus for those of you who are trying to solve the whole equation again? So that's an example of how a warm could look in class, and also how immediate feedback from their homework can be applied to my lesson. Also, I would like to take your attention to the very top. You'll notice that I have an aim up there. I always like to put the objective for the day so students know what our goal for the day is. I also, the top right, on every slide of my PowerPoint, I have the agenda. It's up there in the upright corner, and it tells us what part we're on. So we're on the warm-up. Next would be announcements. Then we review mistakes. We have a group work, and then X ticket, just so they can see the structure. And that changes a little bit per day based on the needs of the students and based on what I saw from the previous work. But that's the typical format for that. So the last thing you probably the two more things actually. One thing you're probably wondering is, okay, is there a way for my child to get even more help? And the answer is yes. In fact, if you look at how the schedule works, you'll see that typically every day there's time from 1 to 3 that is supposed to be for office hours or for teacher collaboration. So your child can stop by during my office hours from 1 to 3 any day except for Wednesday. That's usually when I work with my other coworkers on lessons and stuff. But they can stop by and get one-on-one help. And I promise you that not too many students right now are taking advantage of that. But those who have been able to get a lot of support. And let's say these office hours do not line up with their schedule. They might need help from other teachers, so on and so forth. Well, there's still my email that they can always email me and get help that way. And you also are free to email me. And by the fact, if I did not answer all your questions, if you have any more information you would like, you may just email me after back to school night, and I'll try to get to you as soon as possible. The very last thing you're probably wondering is, what's my grading system? So here's the most basic example of the grading policy. Participation. A lot of people usually have participated at 5%, but as I said, a big focus for me is to get students engaged, and if they see that just by participating and so on and so forth, that's a big chunk of their grade, I'm hoping that will encourage engagement, students to be more on task, especially with this online system right now. Assignments, classwork, and homework are going to be 25%. Assessments, what that looks like is still going to look a bit iffy, but even though we will have tests and quizzes, I would like to make things a bit more project-based. And of course, there might be a final, but to be completely honest with all of you, we don't know what this year is going to look like. We don't know if the students are ever going to come back to class for this year. It'd be great if they did. I would rather be teaching in a classroom than be teaching on my laptop. So I don't know if there will be a final. I don't know if assessments will still be 50% when I'm not able to give tests, right? That doesn't seem right if I can't give tests and I have assessments at 50%. So this is subject to change. And when it does get changed, I will always inform my students how categories will be changed. Now, if you have any more questions, please email me from the previous slide. If you want to see examples of my lessons, please look at the videos from this YouTube channel. Otherwise, please like and subscribe, and you have a good night. Bye.